Anyway, so a couple topics today that would love to get into. One of them is the big misconception on this new lending law, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac thing that came about. Man, it actually passed, I think, in January. It goes live, I think, May 1st or May 3rd or something crazy like that. But the misconception right now is that if you have really, 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 really good credit, so yeah, when I say really good, like 780, and you're going with that conventional Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac type of loan, you're going to be paying a little more than somebody that doesn't have good credit. So somebody that's in like the 600s. Now, here's the thing with that. And Brad, have you read about it at all? Have you get a chance to look it up?
Very, very little. So guess what?
You're not prepared.
No, absolutely not on this one. I can handle the other two topics pretty well, but not that one. I have read up. I know. I thought I knew, to be honest with you, but then you threw me for a loop this morning when you said there's some misconceptions. So guess what, Mr. Misconceptions? You get to educate me.
Yeah. So, well, I'm going to tell you, you're right. We talked about this yesterday.
I don't know if you guys could hear the clap. I hit the clap button, but kudos to Vince for doing the research. let's give him.
So I don't think they can, because I don't think the board's.
Well, then golf clap for Vince. Golf clap for Vince.
That was way too loud. Anyway, so what we're looking at is it started. It was passed back in January. It's supposed to be able to allow people with lower credit scores to be able to afford a little more housing. And it doesn't necessarily mean, and this is where the misconception is, it's just like that FHA lending, the 40-year FHA thing that passed, I don't know, a few weeks ago. The misconception was that FHA was coming out with this new 40-year mortgage.
Correct.
Well, that wasn't the truth. It was social media and news feeds that were, that told everybody that it was, right? And really what it was is somebody that is either has been behind on a loan or currently is behind, they can kind of refinance or take a 40-year mortgage out versus the 30-year to kind of get them better payments and hopefully not get booted out of their house. Now, with this new lending guidelines, there's a bunch of charts out there, and a lot of it has to do with how much money you're putting down. And if you're not putting down the full 20% or 25%, you're charged just as much as someone that has a 620 credit score, and a 620 credit score person's actually being charged a little more. And so that's really what changed in that guideline, is really where that falls and what percentage extra you're going to pay to originate the loan. So I would suggest talking to your lender. Your lender's been informed about this since, it was passed in January. So if you have a lender that has no clue about this and is doing Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans, I suggest you find another lender. Sorry, guys. Just like us as real estate agents, we should be informed on, real estate law, what's going on in our areas, what the market's doing. Lenders should be doing the same. So I highly recommend that sorry, I got away from the mic there a little bit. Highly recommend that you're using someone that's knowledgeable, qualified, and isn't just kind of blowing smoke up your ass, right?
Well, it's like those quality lenders, like you said, on the whole 40-year, they're gonna educate you on that's actually not a position you want to be in, but it's there if you need the help.
Exactly.
So always talk to your loan professional, and Vince is right. Just make sure your loan professional is up to date. We know usually enough in the loans to be dangerous. No, it's part of our consultation to make recommendations, to lenders, or we know what a conventional loan is, we know what FHA, VA, but stuff changes with lending, just in interest rates, obviously they change daily, right? I spent a very short period of time about 20 years ago in the lending world, and I got mad respect because I only spent 9 months in it because I hated it. I certainly enjoyed the realtor side of the house better. But and we used to get notifications daily of something that was changing from a fee perspective, a policy, just a lending guideline, and of course interest rates.
Right.
So it's ever changing. So if you're looking to do something, whether it's a refinance, some sort of help like the 40-year, or, purchasing or whatever, just make sure you get with a good living professional. It's got all the data.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The other topic I wanted to kind of touch base on today, is pricing your home right. There's, we give 3 different pricing structures, for our sellers. And I had a couple listing presentations this weekend, got another one tomorrow. So I think, this is a great topic for those that are really thinking about selling and, getting their house listed and getting the most for their money. So Brad, what would you suggest? How do you go about it? Let's talk about the importance of listing your house at the right price.
Well, the most important thing and to be able to do that is call a really good real estate agent. First and foremost. No, but of course that's a given, right?
Right.
But in all seriousness, and we've talked about this a little bit before in different capacities, there's a whole thing about pricing and marketing strategy. But if you price your home too high, and there's all 4, there's higher ends of your market for your home. There's probably a dead on point that's pretty close.
Yep.
And there's a low point that's strategically to drive multiple offers. Okay. There are pluses and minuses to all 3 of those strategies. If you go too low and you don't get the activity that you're expecting, well, it's really hard to price your house later. So you could be stuck with taking a lower offer. So you got to be very careful on that regard. If you go too high, you're not going to get the traffic. You're certainly not going to get the offers. And in this market, the way it's been the last 3-4 years, homes are on the market for 20 days. I can tell you as an agent, when I'm talking to my buyers, well, it's been on the market for 20 days, so it's got to be overpriced.
Right, 100%.
So,
or there's something wrong with it, right?
Right. Whereas, when I say a normal market is to me a balanced. It's maybe not too much of a buyer's market. It's not too much of a seller's market.
Right.
Everything's kind of considered equal. That's not uncommon for 30 plus days, maybe 60 days. Then you have to worry about being stale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you got to either adjust your marketing, who you're marketing to. I mean, that's one of the things we focus on is, okay, this style of home through our Facebook marketing, social media, other social medias, other media platforms, mailings, calls, emails, all that stuff. We're trying to hit a market that we think would fit that home the best.
Yep.
For instance, I'll give you an example. If you have a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, about 1,000 square foot, small home, who does that fit? Well, first time home buyers, no kids, or maybe a small
family. Yeah.
Small family. Kids are under 4 or 5 or whatever. Could also fit just a single professional. Could also fit, somebody that's downsizing.
Right.
Kids are gone.
Empty
They don't want the large house. They don't want the maybe the larger property. They, next to probably your condo situation, or where you don't really have to take care of anything exterior and it's minimal on the interior even. You just want a simpler life. So you go smaller home. We're going to target to those demographics.
Right.
That's part of the marketing. Price wise, again, right now you have to be careful. You have to be ready to make an adjustment. If you go for that bigger number, fine. But I know we tell our clients all the time, if we don't see the traffic within 1 week, because within a week, first showings, by the way, are online.
Yep.
Technically, your second showing is in person. First showings are online. We get thousands and thousands of people traffic. Probably in some cases, 10,000 plus people will see your house online in 1 week when we market it. Well, you're not going to get 10,000 showings, of course, right? So if you're not getting the showings, people are seeing something in the photography, in your description that says, well, this thing's overpriced. You can go stale very quickly.
Right.
So it's really important to make sure it's price correct. How to do that? I mean, it's comps. That's what we use as realtors. What's sold as close and similar to your house as possible.
Right.
Now it's kind of easy if you're in certain neighborhoods where you get that old cookie cutter label. Well, sure, that's easy. Or a lot of times this brings up a question I get a lot of times. Why don't you ever talk about price per square foot? Because people watch these, $1 million listing shows and everybody's talking price per square foot. We look at it, but that's really easy. And those guys are usually selling in vertical markets, a lot of stuff that's similar,
Right.
especially the New York one or the bigger city one. That's heavily on price per square foot. Now here you've got, one house next to the other could have a third of an acre, half an acre, 3/4 an acre, different styles, ranch versus 2-story, bi-level, tri-level. So there's a lot of different avenues there as far as what's priced, but it's comps, and you want the closest comps, because that's the closest you're going to get to the market's just shifted.
Yep.
So those are
Why
initial tips.
Why would someone price their house too low? We talk about 3 different levels, which, and it's kind of an upside down or a pyramid, right? Like if we price the house too high up here, you're going to have very little buyers in that pyramid, right? Yes. And if we're in the middle, we're going to get a larger number. And if we're at the bottom, everybody's going to want to, at least they're going to be curious about it. Doesn't mean it's going to fit what they want. But why would someone price their house too low? And, what's a good way to think about pricing your home if we want to draw multiple offers?
Well, like you said, there's the risk there, because if you price it too under market and you end up, it's the strangest things can happen. You could hit a slow weekend.
Right.
If there's a bunch of stuff going on locally that's a big deal, an event, music event, obviously holidays are ones that it's hit or miss. I always say, like 4th of July weekend, I've shown houses on 4th of July weekend. My phone hasn't rang on 4th of July weekends. You never know.
Right.
So if I'm going into 4th of July weekend, probably not recommending the low end strategy, because we don't know what's going to happen. But you get that one showing that comes through, it makes you an offer, and you don't see anything for another 5 days. What are you going to do? Turn it down?
Right.
So you don't want to go crazy low. The idea of below market is to drive a lot of action and multiple showings. What is that number? I think it varies. Can you put a percentage on it? I don't know. Is it 5% below? Is it 2% below? I think that depends on the price point.
Yeah. How often have you had a buyer, you walk in, you tell them a comp, you tell them, you know what, Mr. Devall, I think your house is worth, I think 300 is a great number to draw traffic, get multiple offers. And they look at you and go, well, Brad, can we start out at 275? Have you ever had that happen where the buyer is kind of, going lower than your recommendation?
The seller?
That's what I meant, seller. Thank you.
Yeah, actually I have. Their motivations are usually, listen, I just want to get this done.
Yeah. They're
not green. Maybe they have the house paid off. Maybe they know there's enough equity there that they know they're not getting the max. Maybe it's a lot of times that happens, relocations.
Yeah.
Because part of their move is being covered by their company or different things. There's just different scenarios there. Or just timeline, like, hey, we got to go. If I don't get this sold, my family has to stay here, and I got to travel across state. I don't want to be apart from my family for 60 days.
Yeah. So what you're saying is really when it comes to pricing, understand the seller's motivation. It's right. Yeah. If a seller is, if they have a ton of equity, they're motivated because they're closing on another house.
Yep.
When it comes down to it, they look at it and go, do I hold it for 90 days and make an extra 10 grand, or do I dump it tomorrow and be done with it, not have to pay 2 mortgage payments, whatever it might be? There's the motivation's key. A
client's motivation is huge. That's why we spend a lot of time, both on our seller and our buyer consultations, on talking about motivation.
Right.
I'll share something I missed. Normally don't miss this, and it's because I wasn't thinking. We're with a client right now. They have a
Brad. Wait, talking about Brad was not thinking. Take note.
Yeah.
Right. Go.
It happens every once in a while, at least once a day. That's every once in a while. So they have a small child, one on the way. I always ask the buyer about, what's important for the area searching, and school district for people with kids is, they want a good solid school district. Yep. And we looked at the house, developed the house. I don't expect them to be in this house like a normal first-time home buyer. They're going to outgrow it in about probably 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, the oldest would probably be into kindergarten, which, even the school district that's ranked lower, their elementary schools are usually pretty decent. From my experience, but that's ultimately they decide not to write on this house because they're like, well, we do think we're probably gonna be there 5 years. And we're just not thrilled with the school district. I'm not gonna mention the school district because everybody's got their own standards there and there's ratings, different things. And things can change in school districts in 5 years.
yeah.
So, but I'm not gonna tell them that that's important to them. That's a standard. Great. They know how to get that information. So we've ruled a certain area out now.
Now, hold on, let's throw a little disclaimer in there. We as agents can't pass opinion on school districts, crime, sex offenders, what else? Basically the area and the community in that area, sex, race. We can't discriminate. So, when a buyer asks me, hey Vince, what do you think about the school district? I steer them, and steering's not the right word. I give them the location or tell them how to find the information on school districts, crime rate, sex
We
offenders.
can give them the sites
Exactly.
and where you can get the data, and then they have to make their own conclusion.
Right.
And we make that very clear. And that's why I didn't really talk school district, but now he said he knew where to get it. And I said, okay, if this is a school district that you want to stay away from, all right, then we'll rule that search out. That was their decision.
Yep.
And I'm not we're just like we shouldn't steer them away from it. We shouldn't steer them to it either. So in the story, we're moving on to a different area.
Exactly.
We've eliminated this area for that reason, because that's important to them. So it's back to the motivation thing. It just comes down to the seller's motivation, the buyer's motivation. It's such a huge topic that we do spend quite a bit of time on during a seller consultation or a buyer consultation.
Right.
I can't even emphasize it enough. Comes down to the simplest question: why are you doing this?
Yeah.
That's the easiest question. You'll hear that come out of our mouths. So why are we doing this?
Yeah. Well, why are you selling?
Why are you changing from where you're at now?
Yeah. I mean, I did a buyer consult Friday afternoon, and she is renting this old farmhouse. She owns this farmhouse, been in their family for years. And she said, I'm tired of being a landlord. I'm tired of, they called me up because there's an issue. She has 4 properties, and this one she's looking at getting rid of. And she's tired of being a landlord. And I get it. The guy, there's times as a landlord, I'm like, all right, great. That's why I don't manage my own properties. Thanks, Mr. Brewer.
Nice disclaimer.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I think when it comes to pricing your home, right, it's motivation. It's that motivation is going to drive us on how long you're willing to hold the house, right? Mm-hmm. And if you have a number in mind, and that number is, say, 25,000 more than what we feel is a good number to start at, we're going to give you a range anyways. We're going to give you a range from A to F, and where we land in between that range is completely up to you. And if we're at the high part of that range, say the F part, maybe we're talking about in a week or 2 weeks on what a price reduction looks like. Because, the longer you sit on it, the less opportunity you have to move out and move on, right? Potentially more holding costs, whatever the motivation is, the longer you sit on it, the more it's costing you anyway. So really, why not price it at the right point? I'll give another great example. Earlier this year, I had a buyer that was selling their house. I was not the agent because it was out of state. They were selling their house, and they listed it for what they thought they could get for it or felt they should get for it. The agent in the state came in and said, no, I think we're around this number. And they chose to list at the number they wanted to. Now, they sat for 3 weeks almost with one showing. So that talks about, price driving activity. They sat for 3 weeks with one showing. They wrote an offer on a home sale contingency of their home, but because they had no offers on their home, they actually lost out on a house that they really fell in love with in this area. So even though they had the motivation, they didn't listen to the professional. And that's unfortunate for them.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But this is what we do for a living. We're both full-time agents. This is what we do. We enjoy it. We do a lot of research on it. We understand it. So really trust that agent to give you the right information, and then we can make a decision going forward. but be prepared that if you're going to price at the high end, we may eventually be talking about price reductions.
Oh, totally. I mean, you hit the biggest thing right there, and it's something we didn't talk about too. You really have to be particular if you're going to go into a situation where you have a home sale contingency. You really have to make sure that you probably aren't flirting with the higher end of the market. So that's another one where you said, why would someone go the low end? It's the home sale contingency. Like, yeah, I
Right.
gotta sell this.
Yep.
So I got a new client I'm going to be dealing with that now too. So it's fine. And you can get home sale contingencies. There's this misnomer that you cannot get them done. Good agents look at when I'm listing a property and we get offers in a home sale contingency. You know, a lot of times my seller's like, we're gonna rule this out. No, we're gonna look at where they at with that process. Is it on the market already? Do they have an accepted offer? Are they through inspections? So a lot of criteria that you can look at where ultimately that home sale contingent offer might be your best one.
Right.
So I wouldn't rule it out just because they have a home sale contingent, especially in this market when homes are moving quick.
Yep.
So
Yeah, no, exactly. Hey, we got a few more minutes. I wanted to throw one last topic out there, Brad, and I think it's kind of a fun one for people that are getting ready for the summer. I mean, we're going to be a high of 48 today on this beautiful Monday morning, and it's unfortunate that we're almost in May and we're, you know, not even consistently in the 50s and 60s yet, but that's all right. What let's talk summer, you know, getting your house ready for the summer, what that looks like, you know, some of the tips, tricks that, you know, Brad and I do or kind of pay attention to when we're preparing our house for the summer.
you have longer daylight, so you got to make sure the outside is showing excellent curb appeal. I mean, that's just bottom line. You got to pay more attention to the things that people can't see in the dark. I guess.
Well, let's
or not, and that's not that you're trying to hide these things either. I do want to say, like, it's not gonna hide it, but trim that's faded or a little bit rotted. Now it's gonna come up on home inspection, by the way, but a buyer can be a little bit more forgiving because once they already like the house and they made the offer, little stuff that comes up the inspections afterwards that aren't really always major repairs.
right.
They're gonna be like, okay, but when they see it during the showing, it could actually deter them to make the offer. So, you know, make sure some of the little maintenance stuff are buttoned up. The house is, if it's a house that needs painted, that's, you know, not vinyl, make sure that's done. Windows look good. Your landscaping.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be fancy. In fact, minimalistic better. Someone could always add flowers, plants, whatever. You know, make sure that's tidied up. If you got a blacktop driveway, it's starting to fade. Seal coating is not that expensive and really makes those blacktop driveways pop.
Brad's implying that I need to get my driveway resealed.
I did notice it the other day, but I wasn't going to say anything.
You know, we're talking summer. Also, because daylight is, you know, I mean, heck, I think I was outside on my way to burn about 6:15 this morning, and it was already daylight out. You know, it's staying light longer. If you are looking at a house, drive by that house when it's dark out too. Okay, you want to you want to see if the lights on the outside are working, if there's anything that jumps out at you in the neighborhood that, you know, it just doesn't kind of fit with what you're looking for. Highly recommend driving by the house at night when you're, you know, now that we have longer daylight. Over the last 6 months, we were looking at houses in the dark. It just was what it was. So look at the house at night. Also, now that it's starting to get nicer out, clean up those cobwebs. If you have any old wasp nests that are kind of in your peaks, get those knocked down.
Yep.
Get those taken care of. We don't want those critters coming back while your house is doing a showing over the summer. And then get out the yard ornaments like that. Really like spruce up the outside and really make that outside look good. What else you got? I got a couple others.
Like one thing I always do, probably a little bit obsessively, my wife would agree with me on this, is you know, we've got concrete sidewalks, we have a concrete driveway. You know, just making sure those things look sharp, like just a nice power washing knocks the dirt that builds up over time on the sidewalks. Well, have you ever seen the difference between one that's like, you know, it's just had that grit and grime build up and dirt build up for like, I don't know, 10 years, and then you take a power wash over it? You know, some of them, unless they're cracked and all uneven, look almost brand new.
Yeah.
And I experienced that both our last house and this one. Just did the sidewalks last week, and I'm like, wow, Made it look a lot better, just that alone. And then also, we got some pavers that edge the garden. I ran the power washer over those. Those get dingy too.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know they actually had a little bit of reddish to them. They were just dirt brown. Son of a gun, they got red in them.
The other tip I got too is, we should have done it in the fall, but double check it for this time of year. Get your gutters cleaned out. Make sure your gutters downspouts are on. More than likely over the next month and a half, 2 months, it's going to rain a little more, and you don't want your gutters overflowing. Right as someone's walking in your house, you don't want it. The rain just kind of washing through the gutter and down the roof. But get the house, get the gutters cleaned out. Double check them. And screens, your screens on your windows. If you took them out because you have storm windows in, get those put back in so you can open up the house and on nicer days air it out, freshen it up. And also if your screens if you didn't remove them, put winter storms on, get the screens out, spray them off, get all the cobwebs, dust that's collected, those little white fluffy things that fall off trees and flowers that, get all that crap off there, because you want to spruce it up, and it's that time of the year that we should be doing that. No one's going to expect it to be done in the winter. This time of the year, they're going to expect that stuff to kind of look good and be ready.
Absolutely. Those are just, it's so funny how some of the simplest things, it really just and none, by the way, a bunch of those things we mentioned literally cost probably no money unless you don't have a power washer, and just borrow your buddies if yours is broken.
Exactly. I might get it back this year.
You might get it back. I borrowed Vince's, mine's broke. Or just very little money.
Right.
Really at all. I mean, just little sweat equity.
Sweat equity, or there's high school kids out there looking for work over the summer that you can, hire one for $20 or $40, come over, wash all of your screens, clean your gutters, whatever it might be.
Yep, exactly. So those are just you didn't call that topic, summer tips 101. That's pretty 101 about it, I think.
Yeah, I think we did well.
We didn't ask for anything major.
Yeah.
Difficult there. So, all right. Anything else on the topic today?
I think we're good. We'll be back next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Everyone have a great week. I'm Vince Devall with Eagle Homes, powered by EXP.
And I'm Brad Brewer with the same.
And this is the Eagles Nest Podcast. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.